Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So, you don't like the way you look, right? I mean, most people have body image insecurity in some capacity, some more than others, but here's the main thing that you need to know that everybody experiences body image insecurity at one point or another. Yes, even those of us that are body image educators and body positive influencers and so on. So the other day I was looking in the mirror right before I was about to take self-portraits and I was like, I don't like the way that I look. And I know this isn't an uncommon thought and that a lot of people have similar thoughts to this, but I think it's important for people to understand that just because I'm a body image educator doesn't mean I'm immune to experiencing negative thoughts. However, what I do want to shed light on today is two main reasons why body image insecurity still pops up even after years of working on embracing, accepting, and loving this body of mine. All right. So the first reason I want to talk about is the reason why the day that I went to take these self-portraits, I did not like the way that I looked. It was 2 days before I was about to menstruate, and usually that is around the time that we just hate the way that we look. We hate the way our clothes fit. We hate the way our faces look. We hate the way our skin looks. We hate the way our bodies are. We're extremely emotional. But the reality is there is always one day in the cycle of somebody who menstruates that will essentially cause them to dislike everything about themselves. I'm a monster! Now, why is this important information to know? Well, if you have a thought like I did, where I was like, oh God, I just can't stand the way that I look. And I went and I was taking self-portraits and I just wasn't feeling them. Like I was like, oh my God, these are terrible. These are gross. And factually, no, they were totally fine photos. But I was just so like, about myself that I actually stopped halfway through, even though I had rented out a studio for it, because I was like, ugh, I just don't want to look at myself right now. And because I know that that is usually a sign that, my period is coming or things like that, I was able to recognize like, maybe, something's going to happen in the next day or so. And yes, it did the very next day. But because I was able to recognize that the type of dislike that I have for my body or my face is very unusual now, that it happens once a month around the same time, that I'm able to be like, oh, that's weird that I'm really hyper focused on hating the way that I look. What's going on? Understanding a broader context to it allows me to distance myself from the things I say about myself. So when I look at myself in those photos while I was taking them and say, oh my God, I look disgusting, I can shift it to say, I'm imagining that I look disgusting because I just look like I look. It's not good or bad. It just is what it is. So having that understanding allows me to separate myself from the things that I'm saying and understand that it's just part of the process of having the body that I have, that once a month there will be a day that I dislike the way that I look. Interestingly enough, if I also look about a week before, 3 to 5 days before that day, I will be hyper focused also on spending a lot of money on things that I normally wouldn't spend money on the other times of the month. So I started to notice that there is, I'll spend a lot of money and my self-esteem goes down. So once I recognized that this was a pattern that was happening every month, when it happens now, I don't take it personally and I don't fall for it, so to speak. I'm not like, oh my God, I do look disgusting. I'm a disgusting piece of trash. Like, I don't fall into the spiral of thinking negative things about myself. I recognize what it feels like and say, oh, I have felt this way before last month around the same time. You know what? The behaviors I had leading up to this day felt very similar. I was hyper focused on spending money on something ridiculous that I thought would change my life. And there's a pattern and a rhythm to this type of dislike for ourselves. And it just feels different to the normal negative soundtracks that we have going on in our heads. It just seems like super hyper focused. And so I want you, if you are somebody that does menstruate or experience the the hormonal cycles of menstruation, because you may not get a period, but you still can experience the hormonal cycles of it. You will have one day, at least one day, where you just, nothing is good. Nothing about you is good. All of it is bad. And it isn't the truth. It's just the way your brain is thinking in that moment. And so even if after years and years of doing body image work and education and embracing and accepting and loving myself, the thought still persists. It still gets in the way of the thing I wanted to do, take self-portraits. It still makes me feel some kind of way. But knowing that information allows me to not let it ruin anything else, or not let it make me make any drastic changes or jump on the newest diet trend because I don't like the way my body looks. Because 99% of diets fail. They probably all do, just nobody they can't really say that, but none of them have long-term results. Anywho, I digress. The thing is we want to be aware of the context that is allowing these thoughts to kind of bubble up to the surface. What is bringing this on? What is triggering the thought? And if I can understand that, then I don't have to take it as personally and just say, you know what? I'm just not feeling myself today. I'm going to take a bit of time. I'm going to have compassion for myself. I'm going to wear clothes that are super comfortable. Yesterday, I just ended up wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, or the other day when I felt that, I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt and just like super relaxed. I didn't push myself to work excessively hard. I didn't shame myself because I didn't use up the entire studio time. Instead, I just say, you know what, I'm just not feeling it today, and that's okay. So that is the first one. If you are somebody who menstruates, just start paying attention to your cycle and leading up to your cycle and looking at around what time in your cycle. For me, it's about 1 to 2 days right before. Some people it's the day before. Some people it's 3 days before. Everyone's going to be slightly different, but it is within that little window usually. So just start paying attention. So that way, if you track your menstruation or anything like that, you can also be aware, put in your calendar, and like, this day, I am not going to like the way I look. So I'm going to dress comfortably and I'm going to avoid the mirror because it means nothing. And I'm just going to enjoy being with myself, So that's the first one. Boop. Okay. So number 2 is stress. Extreme stress definitely creates a storm, I would say, of environmental factors that can allow your body image insecurities to come up to the surface. Now, it's important for you to understand that the things you think about yourself, your body, and so on are usually not things that you yourself have created, but rather that you've inherited from other people. So let's go there first. I go into this in a lot more detail in my book, The Geo Theory, or if you come to Body Image Boot Camp, but that's the essence of it. What you need to know is that everything you think about yourself was taught to you by somebody else, okay? So that isn't yours. However, because we learn it from such a young age, especially those of us that are socialized as women standardly, we get these really deep-seated thoughts and beliefs about our bodies not being good. It doesn't even matter what your body looks like. You still think it's not good, right? So it just gets in there and it's really chiseled into our brain. So what happens in times of stress is that our brain goes into what's considered tunnel vision or hyper focus, where all we're looking for is negativity and risk. Well, guess what we've been taught puts us at risk of being abandoned, at risk of being unloved, at risk of being ousted from the community. is the way that we physically look. And so because of that, we hyper focus on our looks in times of stress. We say, oh God, if I evolutionarily down low, evolutionarily, we say, oh my God, if I look like this, I'm going to die, which isn't true. But the way that our brain works is that it tries to convince us that that is true. And then that is compounded by constant media that tells us that bodies aren't good. So we want to be aware in times of stress, whether it's your business isn't doing super great, whether it is you're going through relationship issues, whether you are, maybe somebody's in the hospital and you're having a hard time, caretaking. That's incredibly stressful. Maybe you're in a pandemic. I don't know. Things happen, right? And so there are these times of crisis and extreme stress that happen where all of a sudden all of our energy is taken up to kind of work through the fear that we have and do risk assessment everywhere, that all these preconditioned beliefs come rising up to the surface. And in these moments, it's very easy to think that your body's the problem, that it's the reason why you don't feel confident, it's the reason why you feel insecure, it's the issue, and so on. When the reality is that that's not the thing that's actually causing your stress. It's usually these other uncontrollable events that are causing more stress. And I see this happen a lot in business with creative entrepreneurs, usually, is that when their business inevitably has a bit of a slump, they themselves will turn on themselves, believing that their body is the problem. And that's when their body image insecurities get heightened, is because their insecurity in business is heightened, right? Because it's easier we think, to attack this than it is to strategize and recognize that sometimes business just has slow months and it will get back on track, right? So that's a big part of it. And so we want to be aware of when we are having a mass amount of negative body image insecurities, is to look beyond our body for the cause of it. Because again, these are preconditioned thoughts. We all have them. We all have been taught that our bodies are not good enough for one reason or another. We're all in this together. But it's what we do with that information. So it's important to become aware of hearing the things you think about yourself as often as you can. So that way, when you hear it, you're like, oh God, I haven't thought that terribly about myself in a while. Where did that come from? Instead of believing what you were telling yourself about your body. Okay, so those are two main things that you want to be on the lookout for, is just being aware of the circumstances that bring your body image insecurities to the surface. So that way you can show yourself a bit of compassion and recognize that, oh, you know what, I'm attacking this thing that's like gotten me this far in life, so it can't be that bad. When in fact, I should be looking outside of this thing for the context that is creating this dislike or this fear around this thing, our beautiful meat sacks, as if you will. Okay, so that's kind of it for this video, as I just wanted to give you kind of the lowdown on a few different scenarios that can get in the way of you feeling okay about your body. Again, we're not striving for necessarily body love for a lot of people. Mostly it is striving for body acceptance, body neutrality, and just being okay that your body is what it is, because you can want what you want, but it is what it is in this moment. And as somebody once said, you can't get very far by hating yourself. You'll get a lot farther by embracing yourself. Okay? So hopefully this information was helpful for you. If you start tracking and start paying attention to the context that surrounds the way you think about yourself, let me know in the comment section. I want to see, I love patterns and trends and data trends. So, let me know how that works for you. And we'll see where it goes from there. Just remember, at the end of the day, you are an awesome human, deserving of love. You are loved, supported, safe, and wonderful.